Hello and welcome to the introduction to the building standards and certification. This presentation is intended for plumbers who intend on becoming approved certifiers of construction. This should allow you to understand the approved Certifier of Construction scheme for drainage, heating and plumbing before you attend the full training course. The objective of this presentation is to explain the certification scheme and also prepare you for attending the training course to become an approved Certifier of Construction. To be an approved Certifier of Construction, you are required to have a good understanding of the certification scheme, the Building Scotland Regulations 2004 and the building standards. It is also required that you have a good understanding of the whole certification process. What is certification? Certification is a process to certify the compliance of work that is subject of a building warrant. The Building Scotland Act 2003 permits the design and construction of building work to be certified as complying with the building regulations by qualified, experienced, reputable tradespeople. Certification allows qualified operatives to sign off work subject to a building warrant. For example, above and below ground drainage, combustion appliances and unvented cylinders, and a whole host of other types of work. There are numerous advantages to certification. For example, reduced building warrant fees for the client. Also a reduction in time delays to have work signed off. This means projects can move on quicker. Approved bodies and certifiers will also be listed on the scheme website. And you can also certify third-party work. Certification for plumbers. Plumbers are permitted to certify work that is subject to a building warrant for drainage, heating and plumbing. To certify work, it's required that you are qualified and you are also registered to an approved certification scheme. Currently, this is SNIPEF for drainage, heating and plumbing. Who is involved with certification? We have the Scottish Government Building Standards Division, often referred to as the BSD. The BSD provide the technical handbooks that contain the building standards that support the building regulations. We also have verifiers. This is the 32 local authorities of Scotland. The verifiers issue the building warrants to clients. We have scheme provider. This is SNIPEF, who administer the scheme. An approved body. This is a plumbing business that is registered to the scheme. Within the approved body, they employ an approved Certifier of Construction. This is a qualified plumber who's passed the training course, who certifies the work and produces a certificate of construction on completion. And there's a certification coordinator. This is a person employed by the approved body who supports the certification activities. The approved Certifier of Construction and the certification coordinator can be the same person if required. And the certification coordinator does not need to hold technical competency. What is work certified against? Drainage, heating and plumbing work subject to a building warrant is certified against the Building Scotland Regulations 2004 as amended. The building regulations can be supported through the mandatory building standards. And the building standards can be found in the technical handbooks that are produced by the BSD. They have two versions of the technical handbooks, one for domestic and one for non-domestic. Each technical handbook has 8 sections from 0 to 7. The Building Scotland Regulations 2004. For drainage, heating and plumbing activities, the following regulations have specific relevance. Regulation 8, durability, workmanship and fitness of materials. Regulation 9, standards applicable to construction. Regulation 10, regulations applicable to demolition. Regulation 11, regulations applicable to provisions of services. And Regulation 12, standards applicable to conversions. The building regulations are supported by 6 schedules. The schedules allow more information to be detailed. Sometimes the building regulations can be quite short and concise. These schedules will provide you with more information of what that regulation stipulates. Schedule 1 deals with exempted buildings and services, fittings and equipment. Schedule 2 is for conversions to which the building regulations apply. Schedule 3 is descriptions of building and work not requiring a building warrant. And Schedule 4 is for measurements. Schedule 5 is for building standards applicable to the design and construction of a building. And Schedule 6, building standards applicable to conversions. The building standards and the technical handbooks. The BSD have produced technical handbooks. One version is for domestic buildings and the other version is for non-domestic buildings. Each handbook has 8 sections ranging from 0 to 7. Section 0 is general guidance. Section 1 is structure. Section 2 is fire. Section 3 is environment. Section 4 is safety. Section 5 is noise. Section 6 is energy. And Section 7 is sustainability. Each of the sections consists of an introduction, and then it is followed with guidance on the individual standards within each section. All the building standards sit within the 7 sections. Building standards. Here are the applicable building standards for drainage, heating and plumbing. Each standard can be found in the BSD technical handbooks. Please be familiar with how to locate these building standards within the technical handbooks. Please see the 2 links that have been provided. One link will take you through to the domestic technical handbook for 2019. And the other link will take you through to the non-domestic technical handbook for 2019. The technical handbooks do get updated, usually every 2 to 3 years. As you can see here in the bottom right hand side, there's a table. All the numbers within that table are the building standards from within the technical handbooks. So as you can see down the left hand side of that table, it goes from structure through to sustainability. These are all the sections of the building standards. Then you can have a column for domestic and then a column for non-domestic. Some building standards will sit within the requirements for domestic buildings and non-domestic buildings, and structure is a good example. If you look in the table, there are some numbers that have been highlighted. These highlighted numbers means that only sits in one section. So for example, 2.1, that building standard is only present in the non-domestic technical handbook. Now that sits in the fire section, and domestic buildings and non-domestic buildings have slightly different requirements for fire and safety within that building. And 2.1 will outline some different requirements for that non-domestic building. Another good example is environment and 3.27. 3.27 deals with water efficiency within a building, and it's just in the domestic building. As you can see, it's not in the non-domestic column. The reason for this is in a non-domestic building, there's usually a water meter fitted, and having a water meter fitted naturally encourages people to be more efficient with their usage. Within a domestic property, it's not a requirement to have a water meter fitted. So 3.27 outlines criteria such as having a dual flush toilet system in a domestic setting. There are other relevant documents for certification. Approved Certifiers of Construction must be familiar and be able to locate the certification handbook, a procedural handbook, the BSD technical handbooks, the Building Scotland Regulations 2004, and any other building standards legislation. It's not expected you know everything off by heart, but you must know where to find this information. Using the link below will take you through to the Scottish Government website, where you'll be able to find all the documents above. The Scheme Guide. Before attending the course, SNIPEF will provide you with access to a scheme guide. This guide will provide detailed information on the certification scheme for drainage, heating and plumbing. It will also include the code of conduct and complaints processes, roles and responsibilities of everybody involved with the scheme, membership criteria and certification practice. The technical guide. You will also be provided with access to the SNIPEF technical guide. This technical guide will provide guidance on the building standards to be observed and covered during this training, legislation, building warrants, and some example certificates of construction. It is required you are familiar with these guides before attending the training course. What is a building warrant? So a building warrant is a legal permission needed to commence building works. A warrant applicant applies to the local authority or the verifiers for the warrant. This could be a homeowner, developer or house builder. It's a legal requirement to have a warrant for certain work types. Schedule 3 of the building regulations details work that does not require a building warrant. The warrant applicant is the person who receives the certificate of construction from the certifier on completion of the works. Does the work require a building warrant? If you need to determine if a building warrant is required for the work, you can refer to Schedule 3 of the Building Scotland Regulations 2004. You could also use the SNIPEF Technical Guide, pages 12 to 22, where there is a matrix. The matrix indicates if work requires a building warrant. Categories are broken down into domestic and non-domestic, and also the types of work. Always refer back to Schedule 3 of the Building Regulations. As you can see in the bottom right, there is a table. It's an example from the matrix. On the left-hand side of it, this is for domestic buildings. You can see this is for repairs and replacement. So the top one is work associated with the replacement of a bath, shower, wash hand basin, WC or sink of the same general type. Then we can see we have a flat, a house, which is up to 2 stories, and a house 3 stories or above. And as you can see there, it says not required, not required, not required. This means that work does not require a building warrant in all 3 of those building types, which are domestic dwellings. Please make note of any little number that's below the not required or the required word, as this will refer you through to the notes section at the back of the matrix. Please read the notes, because this could affect if the building warrant is required. Who is responsible for building warrants? Ultimately, it is the building warrant applicant, which could be the homeowner or developer, who is responsible for the building warrant. A plumber who's carrying out work where a building warrant is required does have a responsibility to ensure that building warrant is in place. Of course, not all work requires a building warrant, and you can refer to the Building Schedule 3 or refer through to the technical guide that SNIPEF provided and the matrix within there. Building warrants can also be for extensions of buildings, conversions of buildings, modifications of buildings, and small work types. For example, the installation of a new unvented hot water cylinder in a flat usually requires a building warrant. It may be the case that you have to advise your client of the requirement to have a building warrant in place before the work proceeds. Certification process. The client will apply to the local authority or the verifier for a building warrant. During that application for a building warrant, that building warrant applicant should advise the local authority that they intend to use a Certifier of Construction. If they do use a Certifier of Construction, they will get a discount on their warrant fees. The local authority will then grant the building warrant and the work can commence. Once the work is complete, the work can then be certified. A certifier should not wait till the very end to inspect works, and it may be required at certain times jobs are inspected to ensure compliance. Once the work is certified, the certificate of construction is completed and given to the building warrant applicant. And again, this could be a homeowner, it could be a site manager, it could be the developer. You will need to determine this on site. The building warrant applicant then passes the completed certificate of construction to the local authority. And the local authority will accept the certificate. Certification of third-party work. It is permissible to certify third-party work. This may mean that you are certifying other plumbers and other tradespeople and the work that they have carried out. It's very important that you liaise with the person or the persons carrying out that work. You should ensure that that person or persons are competent to carry out that type of work. You should also establish key points in time to carry out an inspection of the work that is to be certified. A good example would be drainage or soil pipes that may be going behind sheet material. You should also have some form of supervision of the work that is happening. And you should also ensure that the work that is carried out does comply with the Building Regulations 2004. Remember, the Certifier of Construction signs the certificate and states that the work complies with the Building Scotland Regulations 2004. Issuing of certificates of construction. On completion of the full training and assessment to become an approved Certifier of Construction, you'll be issued with login details to your own portal for the certification scheme. Within this portal, you will be able to fill out and complete and print certificates of construction. When completing the certificate of construction, there's various information required to input into the fields. This will be such things as building warrant number, site address, type of building, and type of work that is being carried out. Once this is completed and submitted, you will then be able to print the certificate. Once that certificate is printed, the certifier will sign section A and the coordinator will sign section B. This certificate can then be handed over to the building warrant applicant or the relevant person. Being a Certifier of Construction is a position of responsibility, and certification activities are to be carried out in a professional manner. If an approved certifier makes false or misleading statements within a certificate or recklessly issues a certificate, they are guilty of an offence under clause 11.4 of the Building Scotland Act 2003. This is a criminal offence. Certification scheme requirements. All members of the certification scheme are required to abide by the certification scheme code of conduct. This can be found in your scheme guide provided by SNIPEF. You should also follow all the certification guidance. This is any information that SNIPEF have provided through the scheme guide and technical guide, or any other legislation or documents created by the Building Standards Division. And at the end of this presentation, there will be a link through to where you can find any relevant guidance. Should carry out your duties in a professional manner, adhere to the complaints procedure of certification scheme. You should also allow an audit inspection when requested by SNIPEF. These tend to happen on a 3-yearly basis. And you should carry out all works to the required industry standards and the building regulations. Training and assessment. To become an approved Certifier of Construction, it is required that you attend a training course. This training course will be delivered online, and then the training course will be followed by an assessment. This assessment will also be carried out online. The assessment is an open book assessment, and you can use your scheme guide and technical guide that SNIPEF have provided. The assessment has an 80% pass mark. It's required that you make us aware of any specific adjustments you may require to complete the assessment. Please feel free to contact us prior to carrying out the training. To summarise what we've covered in this introduction to certification and the building standards, we've covered how certification works. We've also covered who is involved with certification, roles and responsibilities, the benefits to certification activities, such things as reducing time delays, signing off work once it's complete, not requiring inspections from local authorities, and signing of third-party work. We also covered what documentation you need to be aware of and you should have a good understanding of. And finally, we covered on how training and assessment is carried out. Thank you very much for joining us today for the introduction to the building standards and certification. This was an introduction to the Approved Certifier of Construction scheme and how to become an Approved Certifier of Construction. If you do have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. By phone, this can be done on 0131 5560 600, or you can email info@snipef.org. We look forward to seeing you on the Approved Certifier of Construction training course in the near future. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.